Chen and Mayan Eden. So good to have everyone on here. Mayan Eden is in studio, so we're going to be oscillating between my view and hers. But here's the introduction for everyone. So first of all, Chen, thank you so much for coming on the show. For those who don't know, Chen Yaakov Kupperman is the founder and CEO of Blend.Ar, an NGO that promotes social cohesion and understanding through languages and cultural education. Their foundation teaches Hebrew and Arabic in Israel and in the Middle East, and it's for innovative ways that promote meaningful interactions between Arabs and Hebrew speakers. They also advise diplomats, businessmen, organizations who wish to better understand Arabic speakers and Hebrew speakers. Chen is fluent in Hebrew, Arabic, and English, speaks basic Hindi, Mandarin, French, and is an expert of Arabic language, culture, and society, and oversees a team of 55 staff members in Blend.Ar. That's truly amazing. Chen, welcome to the podcast. The next guest is Mayan Eden. And for those who don't know, Mayan Eden is an Arabic Jewish real estate broker, investor, and founder of Eden Realty Properties in New York City. After earning her degree in business law, she built a diverse property portfolio across the U.S., driven by a deep commitment to cultural understanding. Mayan traveled through the Middle East on a mission to bridge divides between Jews and Arab communities. Her blend of entrepreneurial vision and personal heritage brings fresh insight into how Jews and Arabs can pave a path to peace in the Middle East. Mayan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So there's so much to talk about. And I think when we were talking about before the podcast, we're seeing how many languages you guys all speak. And normally I'm the one in the room who speaks the most languages, speaking a little bit of English. I'm still working on that, and some French and Hebrew, but I'm truly outnumbered here. So Chen, why don't you start with telling us all languages you speak?
So you just said that already, but I can go over what you said.
Yeah.
So I speak Hebrew as a mother tongue. And that was the language of my mother. And I studied English because lots of Jewish Israelis, that's what they do as a second language. And I think what's more unique is that I chose to study Arabic. I'm happy to say it's becoming less and less unique in Israel. There's more and more Jewish Israelis who study Arabic. Yeah, and the Hindi and Mandarin and French is all kinds of, short adventures that I had with these languages. But I think my passion is Arabic, and I think it's extremely important to study Arabic because we Jewish Israelis we live in the Middle East, and most of our neighbors speak Arabic. And if we want to interact, understand, communicate, we have to know their language and culture.
If you're going to be in the hood, you got to speak the language, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And Mayan, what about you? What languages do you speak?
So I don't speak English, obviously, but
We're all working on that.
Me too.
I speak Hebrew. I speak Yiddish. And then I speak a bit of French as well. And as of recently, I am starting to learn Arabic.
So come to the perfect place. How'd you learn Yiddish? That's amazing.
Interesting story. So I actually started working with the Hasidic Jews in New York City many years ago. And I realized that the only real way as a woman that's not as religious as them to really penetrate their community and to really work with them and have them trust me is to speak their language, kind of like what I'm trying to do here with the Arabic world. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Cool. And didn't you guys go to the Middle East recently? And why don't you tell me about
Sure. Yeah, so I met Mayan in Abu Dhabi.
Wow.
Abu Dhabi. We went to the Emirates to a conference together. We didn't know each other from before. We met in the conference, which is an extremely, it was an amazing event. It blew my mind. And it took me a few weeks to kind of get calmed down from what happened. I don't know what you think, Mayan, but for me, it took like a few weeks to get,
It was crazy. The people that we met, the experience that we've had was just, I haven't seen such unity. Like I've never seen that before, especially afterwards when we were
neither.
sitting with Amjad and the sheikh, everybody together was like a room, like you saw like Arab, Muslim, hijab, rabbi, kippah, rabbi, religious, not religious, like just a mix of everybody that could possibly be sitting there was like mind-boggling. And then when I showed a video to my grandmother, hey buddy, when I showed a video to my grandmother afterwards, she didn't believe me that these were real people sitting
Yeah,
together.
this is not AI. And also it's not only these people sitting together, like you would expect such a thing to happen. Maybe the normal average listener might think, okay, that's something you might see in the UN or in Europe or in New York, but no, you see that in the Middle East. I'm
Right.
in a Muslim country, and I, as a Jew, Israeli Jew, I think I felt there the safest. I've like as a outside of Israel, I think that's the place that I felt the most safe, especially after October 7th, to express fully my identity and to just be myself. And I felt extremely respected. And I think that's the
Same
main
here.
thing that was like mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned how like it felt unreal because especially for like first generation Israelis or whatnot who just have been experienced through so many wars and then they see a bunch of Arabs and Jews sitting together in Abu Dhabi and it's almost does seem surreal. But that's the whole point here. It's like what seems almost fantastical today can hopefully become reality tomorrow. And I think that's kind of the underlying the goal that you guys are pursuing.
I would say that the most important thing is to work with the people, and when you do this peace with the government and you let civilians in Egypt have there is this scene in Egypt of people are studying Hebrew, but then you look at their profiles and they have like Nazi swastikas and they're completely anti-Semitic. So that's not a good thing. And if you allow that in your country, then you're not really doing peace with Israel. You have a peace agreement, but you don't have peace. And the UAE, I think, is the first country to really deeply have peace with Israel, and that's why I'm not so keen on new countries joining the Abraham Accords if they're not really going to do changes in their education system and in their societies and actually mean that they want peace. Because if they don't mean it, we don't need it. That's my take.
Yeah.
I think that um, this peace this peace in the Middle East that we're talking about is a long-term process. It's not just signing treaties. It's like real change and shifts within like perspectives of the population that needs to be done. And just like there was 20 or 30 years of Al Jazeera that put a lot of money and effort on poisoning the minds of people, we can just do the opposite. We Jews, we came to Israel and we, in Hebrew you say ייבשנו ביצות. I don't know how to say that in English, but we ייבשנו את הביצות שהיה בארץ.
קשה לי גם להסביר את זה באנגלית.
כן, איך אומרים את זה? It's like we dried the swamps in Israel, when we started settling in the 20s and 30s of the 20th century. So you just need to do the same thing and dry the swamps in people's minds. And that takes time. And it's costly and it takes effort, but you need to start doing it.
It takes generations.
And it takes generations. And okay, fine, but you need to start. Also when Herzl said, I want to build a state, it just didn't happen in 5 years. It took almost 70 years.
Right.
But you went in the right direction. Like you took that as a problem that needs to be fixed. And I think a lot of the problem with how Israel's defense philosophy is that we have the Iron Dome. If somebody hits us, we repel. But what about being really safe? What about dealing with the big problems like
You don't need to
changing
use
perspective? Exactly. You don't need to be hit.
that. Right.
So like if you have enemies, you want to influence them and in deep ways and not just make sure that they're not killing you.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have a question for Mayan. So Mayan, you were telling me how you've had one life before October 7th and how everything so dramatically changed for you after October 7th. Can you tell me a little bit about your life before and how it is now?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like my life before October 7th was very standard to other people's mindsets. We didn't really think about it. We just knew that, sometimes Israel and some Arabs, they have some shootings here and there, or someone, blows a bus up or something. It was never something full scale or full blown to the point that I had something to worry about. My family living in Israel. And, it's the place where I was born. It's a place I'm really proud of. And I'm so proud to, be from. It's so hard for me to know that my grandparents, cousins, everyone lives there. So the second October 7th happened, I won't forget that day. I was shocked. And the crazy part is that my family, they're religious, and I couldn't share the news with them because it was during holiday. So I was trying to tell them what's going on, and they didn't believe me, and it was driving me crazy. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, is this real? Is this not real? And then it took till like a day later of me like not sleeping the whole night, a day later to like really find out what's going on, to call my grandma to find out like that this actually happened. And I'm like, what really just happened? Like, just a bunch of people got slaughtered for nothing, for no reason. You know, I mean, people could argue and say, oh, there are reasons, this, that. But at the end of the day, there's no justification for just point blank coming over to someone's house, old people, children, and just killing them. And then
Yeah,
I
they talk
realized,
about intent of genocide, you know.
what is it?
They talk about intent of genocide, you know. Of
Exactly. And then, you know, that's a whole nother topic. I won't
course.
even get into that. You know, there's so many different views on that for a later date. But for now, I would say that what was really important for me was to understand that the issue is that Israel will keep fighting back and forth with whoever comes and attacks them. But I realize that's not the way of doing things. You know, it's going to go on for another generation, another one, another one. More people will get killed and there'll be more fights. And I realized, wait, why can't we just talk to each other? Because, like, if you have someone mad at you and you slap him, he'll slap you back. And then you slap him again and he slaps you twice. But if you say, "Hey, let's cut the madness. Stop the madness," right? And you just say, "Let's have a conversation. Let's talk." It takes some time. The person might not want to talk to you right away. They might still want to smack you around a little bit, but you have to stay composed, right? So I feel like what I'm trying to say is that over the generations, I feel like the more dialogue we have with Arabs and they realize that we don't have horns, and then we realize that they're not all of them want to blow up a bus, right? I think the more we do that, and that's what me and Chen have been trying to do here, and we've been pretty successful in our travels and in our talks. I feel like over time and with more information put out there, like this information, like with this podcast, would be super helpful for people to get to that point.
Exactly. Yeah, you want, you know, I think what I want to do is give tools to people in like understanding nuances in reality and seeing, so giving them some hope, I think.
Right.
But change is possible. You just need to be very patient. It's not like a TikTok video that you get 1 million views. You need to
Right.
really change people's minds, and it takes time. And building, you know, I think the main goal of what I do is try to connect the civilizations, have them speak, and I think that really resonates with what you just said.
Yeah.
You need the civilizations to speak with one another, not just hear about the other from sources that want to create hate and despair.
Absolutely. And that's why I think it's so important that you speak Arabic. And I think it's so important that I'm trying to learn Arabic. I mean, I'm an
Sure.
Arab Jew. I should speak Arabic, right?
You have it in your veins.
Yeah, it's like
You need to
somewhere in
find
there.
it.
I think
Amazing.
it's so important what we're doing. And you know what? Even if it's changing two people's minds, it helps. And I'll tell you why. Because their generations and their kids and their
Exactly.
grandkids, you're changing branches here now. So
Exactly.
even if like you and I are just like two people, and there are people that are crazy influencers and they do crazy things, but if someone's listening and says, "Hey, I got a different perspective," and teaches that to their kid, that changes everything, right?
Of course.
Right.
So Chen, I had a question for you.
Sure.
Well, actually, for you too, Mayan. For both of you, I'm curious your perspectives here. So, it's all a very new world to have this unity between Arabs and Jews, and it's a well welcomed one. It's probably the hardest time to ask this question. But I think that makes it the most interesting. In 10 years from now, where do you see Arab Jewish relations?
Wow.
Rough question.
You know, this is so interesting. I want to address this from a very interesting day. I mean, if you have something to say first, man, go ahead. If not, yeah, go ahead.
I would love, I mean, it's gonna be a little joke at this point, but I would love
Sure.
for us to sit with a finjan together and like just like having a good time and like, just like assimilated, living together, waking up, shalom boker tov, ahlan wa sahlan, like you start talking to people and you just have, we're just humans, like just the way we're supposed to live without having fears. I know it's going to take much longer than that. I know it's going to take a lot longer than 10 years, but at least something, at least a start, right? So, like 10 years ago till now, you and I would not be walking in Abu Dhabi
Of
together,
course.
right? So, in another 10 years from now, I'm hoping that there's going to be a little more progress than where we're at today.
You might be driving there by car and not flying by plane.
Well, I did. I drove Luai's car and he would freak out every time I drove it because he's from Saudi. And he was like, oh my God. Like, he has this fear that you drive like a Saudi woman because they're only like allowed to drive as of a few years ago.
Of course. Yeah,
So I would pull into the driveway, like just like circling like that with the car. Like, how we Israelis drive. We're pretty crazy. And he would like, ah.
amazing.
Yeah.
it's a good vision, Maya. I like it.
I want to say that, it's interesting. The language that you speak influences the way you think. And I think the fact that you get this Arabic mindset of how things are being done. I mean, it's even about the gestures or how you answer questions. And when you ask me this in English, it feels like I want to answer you in Arabic, Michael, but I
Mm.
can't. I need to answer you in English, and it changes the whole way It's kind of like wearing a different suit and having to walk in a different way, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Ho hopefully
because
that
you
will
asked me
improve.
how we're going to read the relations between Jews and Arabs. So you have the Arabs in the equation. And we have a proverb in Hebrew that says, "Hanevua nitna lashotim," which says that like prophecy is for the fools. And like, I think life in the Middle East is very unexpected. That's part of the beauty of it also. I mean, it's hard to plan business plans this way, but in some things, it's hard for Western business people to plan things in the Middle Eastern way. But then there is also some humility in that, in the fact that like you only think about tomorrow, which is not, it has its negatives, of course, but it says like, Allah Karim, like God is great and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We're going to do our best effort to make it better, but we don't really know what's going to happen tomorrow. And it's a sort of mindset that's very, I think, like foreign for the West in some sense, but it has its advantages as well.
Yes.
Right.
So that's my answer.
So my question to you is now with the current war in the Gaza Strip, with the, I wouldn't call it a war, but the offensive in Lebanon that left Hezbollah a little crippled, and then with the current 12-day war in Iran, the current conflict with the Houthis and destabilization in Syria. Right. But in terms of geopolitics, one can argue that Israel has come out a little on top after all this. But there's also a new, I wouldn't call it an enemy, but a new challenge that's emerging. And that is like the fragmentation of Jews with their perspective towards Israel. And you're seeing that in unprecedented fashion, especially in the United States, with, college campuses, but, more interestingly enough, kind of like what you see with some Republicans, where you're seeing an internal divide, where you have a generational gap now, where you have the perspective of an older generation, and you see even the younger generation is still overall pro-Israel, but you're definitely seeing an unprecedented higher percentage of people who are vocal against the Israeli government. It's not always clear what it is, Israeli as a country or the Israeli government, but
Or
what's your...
Israelis as a nation.
Yeah, yeah. So my question to be would be for you and Mayan, I'm curious to know how you guys feel with the younger generation of American Jews, or actually even Israeli Jews.
I would like to start if that's okay.
Sure.
I don't want to take away from your perspective, and I have probably a smaller one about it. So I'm just gonna.
No, exactly the opposite.
I would say, first of all, about Israel's position in the world. Did it get better from before October 6th? I think so. Sadly, I think so. It came at a cost that's unimaginable and unfathomable. But I would say that the Arab world, what a lot of people don't realize is that they work with respect and they respect the strongest person. So the fact that Israel's this tiny and every time they got hit, they took the hit and they just went like this and wiped their ruins. For once, they said no. They attacked back and they came at it hard and they didn't care. So the Arab world, as much as they're Israel so bad, but at the end of the day, they see that and they're like, voila, respect, right?
Of
That's
course.
probably why. That's probably why when Israel was trying to send, the missiles to Iran to bomb the the locations where all their nukes are.
Military, yeah.
A lot of people were quiet, just let them fly over, right? I mean, they controlled the airspace, but they could have really fought back. If they really wanted to, they could have like gotten up, said something. Some people tweeted something like, Salman from Saudi, Mohammed Salman, he kind of tweeted like, oh, this is not right, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't do anything. He didn't get up. He didn't, shoot some back, right? He kind of like, okay, we're kind of happy about this, but we have to, for the Muslim Brotherhood, we're gonna be nice. We're gonna play along. But so I think that brought Israel standing in the world very high. Now, an issue is with how Israel is viewed with America, let's say the Western world or around the world. There's a few problems because I would say really smart, educated people that really study what's going on, they understand, they're with Israel. They understand
course.
what's going on. So, like, especially Republicans, and there are a lot of uneducated people that just
Rose up from nowhere. It's not that it was nowhere. Like, I don't know if you've seen this video. It's called Colombian Becoming. It's from 2004. And if you see it, it's 35 minutes of Jewish people complaining about anti-Semitism in Colombian universities by specific professors that got tenure. And like, nobody cares, right? And then 20 years later, they taught like thousands of people. And then you wake up. Because
right,
again, the Jewish way of thinking about defense was the Jew needs to go to university and back, and to the shul and back, and be safe on the way.
right,
But it's not how it should be. It should be you want to be safe everywhere, and you want to be people that want to kill you or harm you. They have to be afraid, and not you are afraid all the time. Like, why the only places of worship in the world that have security in them are synagogues? Why every time there is a synagogue you need to have a security in Paris?
right,
So not
Yeah.
saying we should fire all the security people. I'm saying there's a mindset that needs to be changed.
right. Absolutely.
I don't know
Yeah.
what you guys think.
No, and I agree with you, and but speaking of the mindset changing, you have, and I use the word unprecedented once again, but you have an unprecedented shift within Israel society. So I know we're talking about the outside, the macro and Israel geopolitics, but even within Israel, which has a heavy role on how geopolitics gets played out, you have a certain sense of fragmentation. And a part of what made Israel so resilient since its inception was that the Yamin Usmar, left or right, there was a sense of unity on a whole bunch of factors. And you're seeing that break down where Israel society is a bit in chaos and keeping a coalition government seems to be almost impossible. How do you think that's going to affect Israel long term?
That's the worst thing. That's our soft spot. That's our Achilles. How do you call that? Achilles.
Achilles heel, yes.
Exactly. That's our Achilles heel. And because we're a democratic country, and like you can influence people by all kinds of ways, that's again like 30 years of very hard work that's being done, not only by people who hate the Jews, but sometimes foreign governments. This is a big issue in Israel about like how do you fight this war. I run an NGO, and once before that I wasn't really aware of like how difficult it is to get funding if you don't have a specific political agenda, and if you're not willing to take money from foreign governments, you're going to be very, very hard promoting your views, or even doing social change. So that's a big deal, and there's not many countries who allow. I mean, now there's all this talk about Qatar and universities in the States, but like it's a disaster, right? It's like a big deal.
Mm.
In Israel, this is the case for years. Like, countries are funding NGOs that ruin our democracy from within, and everybody's fine with it. They go to work and go back and don't talk about it. So I think that's part of the reason. And then you have social media. That's another like problem, and it affects everybody everywhere.
What do you mean social media? And why would exposure to social media have the effect it does within Israeli society?
Well, it's everywhere. I think it has the same effect everywhere, but in democracies, it's worse because, I have this radical view about this, that maybe in like 15 years or 20 years, people are going to talk about social media like they talk about cigarettes, because it's like,
That's
it's,
very interesting.
yeah, like they might be thinking that social media is like drugs, that affect your mind. And you don't feel that it affects your mind because you think, once you have an algorithm that's deciding for you what you're going to see, but you think you have a decision because you can always swipe, but you don't really have the decision um, to see what you see through social media. So that's why I try to be off as much as I can. I mean, you want to influence people, so you're there, but then you're there. It's a loophole. But then, I try to read my news on platforms that are not algorithm based. So like Twitter, no. But Telegram as an idea, or like WhatsApp channels is a good way to do that. But people are still not aware enough. And then, you have people becoming more extreme, and then they start hating each other more than they used to hate other people, like pre-social media. I mean, it's a powerful tool, but it's also very dangerous. Yeah, that's my take. And what do you think? Like that's sort of what we're trying to do in building allies in the Arab world.
Yes. That's also where my focus kind of wants to go to. I
Yeah,
feel that it's a little bit more tricky in the sense it's a little bit more tricky because we have to approach this very delicately. I feel like it's one of those opportunities where you only have like a kind of like a one shot to make that change to get someone inspired so that they inspire the next one. Brotherhood, like you said, right? So you don't want to like get your brother mad and like they're all trying to like kind of cover for each other, even if they hate each other, right? So the way that Trump did it was kind of interesting. He had a very interesting angle with, all his recent meetings in the Middle East. I'm hoping something would come out of that. But I think what we're doing, what's special and unique about what we're doing is that we're traveling to Arab countries. We're going to their tolerance events or even just meeting them on the street, and we are very open people. We talk and we converse with them and we get them to see a different perspective that they never seen before, right?
yeah,
You wanna tell us about your experience? You had a podcast recently. Would you wanna share about that?
sure. Yeah. So in the meeting that I think we had the most interesting conversation, me and you, Mayan,
Yeah,
was a meeting where in the conference, we got invited to a media company that's run with one of, I think, the most pro-Israeli Emiratis that exist in the world right now. And it's really genuinely pro-Jewish, pro-Israeli, pro-Semitic influencers on the planet.
right.
And I'm being humble. I mean, doing him injustice with what I'm saying, not praising him enough, really.
They put themselves out there.
Exactly. And they take a very dangerous and a brave approach. And sometimes
Yeah,
I watch these videos of Amjad Taha and I'm like, what's driving him to do that? Like, would I do the same if they talk about the righteous among the nations.
right.
He's really literally one of
Sid
them.
Molam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, anyways, we're invited, we met him in the conference and we were invited to, talk with his youth. He has like his Shabab and Sabaya, like his youth, male and female young people that do influence work.
yeah,
Um, and they were amazing and inspiring people. And they had various views that were like very different from one another. I remember that what I liked about this was that he was actually asking, remember this? Who is pro normalization with Israel? And not everybody put their hands up.
right.
But even the people who weren't were sitting with us in the room and were willing to meet with us and speak with us, and they were respectful. And, you know, and we had interesting conversations with them.
Yeah, and they even asked questions, which was nice. They
Exactly.
didn't just say no. They said, "Oh, like, we have the shagrir here, the ambassador of Israel. Okay, let's ask some questions." And then they had a translator,
Yeah,
translating the questions. Now, what's interesting is that it was also a very fun and light environment because there was a lot of banter. I remember there was an incident where like two Israelis started arguing, and Amjad's like, "Ah, you see, even two Israelis can never agree on the same thing."
exactly.
So it was just like a fun, light vibe, a light air. There was like the coolest thing is that I saw like hijab, rabbi,
Jews
kafia,
guy.
like yeah, like you just see all that everyone just sitting together, and I was like, it was so impressive to me. Like I took a video. I was like, I have to show this to my family in Israel. They'll never believe me, and they still
They'll
didn't
never
believe
believe you.
me. They still didn't after that.
Yeah. So I got friends with a few of the people there. I had some really good conversations. I think that was like one of the most meaningful parts of my visit.
Yeah,
And we really got friends with a few of the people. And one of them invited me to like because they do content. That's what they do. So he
right,
invited me to come and speak about languages. Because Arabic and Hebrew are so similar. See, there is ishivyon, inequality here between Jews and Arabs that I want to talk about. Hebrew is very easy for Arabic speakers. Arabic is one of the toughest languages in the world. And then Hebrew speakers have an advantage, but it's still very difficult. So this is
right.
an inequality and I demand justice. But I told him this. I told him, you should study Hebrew. You guys should study Hebrew. It's so easy for you guys. And he was curious. He said, you know what? Let's have a talk about this. And then I was invited and we had an interesting talk and it keeps like I still have some short reels and I'm gonna post in the next few weeks about this talk. And this started a relationship with this youth group.
Yeah,
And now I have one of my teachers being interviewed with one of the female influencers over there, and they had a really great time. And one thing that's also very important, the Abraham Accords were a very strong opportunity for Jewish Israelis and Emiratis to meet, but you also
Right.
have Arab citizens of Israel who don't really know Emiratis. And I think what we're trying to do in Blend.Ar is also connect them to this whole new reality, because there's
Right.
prejudice on both sides sometimes, and hesitation. Oh, they sold the Palestinian cause for money. That's sometimes things that you hear, or or maybe envious, or maybe fear, all kinds of negative thoughts. And I try to also bridge that gap between the
Mm.
peoples. I think that's
That's
also
smart.
a
Yeah.
good thing that we could be doing. And then business opportunities and meaningful interactions could start building up even better,
Yeah.
because sometimes they're afraid to be in touch with the Jews because of what the Arabs would think. But if the Arabs are going to be their
Right.
friends as well in Israel,
Right, because
no,
you only know you're only confined to what you grew up learning. We have like a little box in our head that's like our 3D little dimensional box that's there, and that's all we know. So all
yeah,
our fears, all of our understandings about the world and people and culture. So what's interesting about what you just said is that when you bring other Arabs from other parts of the world that have a different mindset, a different perspective, suddenly they're saying, interesting, I didn't know that. Okay, come here, let me hear some more, right? Especially now with, the world is online, right? It's not work, we tried to do word to mouth or whatever it is, but we need to put this stuff online so people can see, like, this person is from, let's say, the Emirates. This person is from Jordan and they're having a conversation, or they're having a conversation with us. I have a lot of people reaching out to me. You'll be so surprised. I was surprised during my, experience by traveling and going to all these peace events where I was either speaking or, being with other people that speak. I posted some stuff online, and I've had people from all different countries, like Arab countries, reach out to me and say, "Hey, I would never say this publicly, but hey, I really support what you're saying, and I'm so happy that you're saying all this stuff." I've got a lot of hate too, don't worry. And I've had a lot of people like, "Hey, I'm from Gaza. I have no food. Can I get some money?" And then I look on their profile and they're not from, like, what are you talking about? Just like
yeah,
scammers, whatever. But the point is that the people that were actually interested and they would never voice their opinion, I want them to be able to do that. I want them to be able to get out there and say, "Hey, this is what I believe in," and that their government should be fine with that. So I think the more we do this stuff, like the more we connect people and connect, it becomes normal. And once
yeah,
something becomes normal and it's not weird or bizarre, or like you and I talking about our experiences in the Middle East, like to our Israeli family, sounds like my grandma was freaking
yeah.
out. And I said, "Grandma, I feel more safe walking down the streets here than I do in the US. Like in the US, someone could come at you with like anti-Semitic remarks and nothing happens to them. Over here, you try that, you go to jail.
You go to jail. It's
So
a crime in the
it's a
UAE,
crime
and
to be
they take it
anti-Semitic."
seriously.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
take it really seriously. And as a woman, as a female, like I'm just walking and I get all this respect. It's like so different. Like here I get catcalled. I get, anti-Semitic remarks. I can have people with kafiyas walking around and I can't do anything about it. They can protest in my face. They can almost harass me and nothing will happen. But over there, these things don't happen. And,
see,
my
that's what
grandma,
I think about free speech. That it's true that it should have. I mean, in America, it's a big thing, like,
right.
but there is limits to free. Like, you don't want to insult people. I mean,
You
you
don't want
think
to
that if
promote
you
hate speech.
exactly, and like you think that if you put borders to speech, you're hurting your mind by not having complete freedom of thought.
Right.
But some places you just don't want to go with your
Right.
mind. You know?
Like, look at our conversation. We can have a lot of things to hate on. We've had a lot of bad things happen to us, especially during October 7th, and we have a lot of injustices. But we didn't sit here and talk about all the injustices and how much hate we have towards anybody specific. We're focusing on the positives. We're
Exactly.
focusing on who can we reach to change this dynamic. This dynamic is horrific. What happened was a result of that dynamic of people not being in communication, people growing up with education, like you said, that's so corrupt that like you see little kids standing there like death to Israel, death to America. In what world is that normal, right? But in their
Yeah.
world it is. So we need to change that.
Yeah, and caring about our neighbors could feel like this naive kind of like, oh, you're a lefty naive person, but caring about their education is not is our interest. because it's
Right.
going to provide stability. It's going to make our lives better. And
Right.
not caring about what they being taught in school and neglecting that stuff is horrible for us,
Right.
not just for them.
That's true.
So yeah,
Okay.
cool.
Chen, Mayan, it's been an awesome, honest pleasure seeing you guys go at it. So it's been an honest pleasure. Thank you, Mayan. Thank you, Chen. Appreciate your time. And it was a great conversation.
Thank
Until
you for
next time.
having us.
Thanks, Michael.